Right, ladies and gentlemen, hello. Now, a message to us all. That's what this little video is all about. It's the book leading on from the astrology of God, helping put the principles of the astrology of God into how it might be able to apply in this world. Now, here's the sort of the hard copy. See, it's quite a nice book, that. There you go. Upside down. Yeah, so there's the book, and that's the printed copy. But of course, you can download it free because this is important information, and it's very interesting because when I first put these books available, people were there was this little flurry of people going for it, and then they read the first bit. This is what happens to a lot of people, but unfortunately, most people have been sold to the very sinister ways, let's say, that society is now run, and what is acceptable is so absurdly out of sync with how it should be, so that when people read the first part of this book, which is about, for example, marriage, it's about marriage, true marriage, what marriage should be, about fathers and mothers and their proper roles, and that they should be married if they're going to have children, about masculine and feminine, about the two different types, about the dangers of over-feminine. I think there's probably also something about over-masculine. I certainly mentioned that. Pretty sure I do. And then you've got the roles of parents and children, and teachers, what education's about, how education should be funded, the size of government, what the government should be for. And of course, what's very popular today, because people watch television and are generally programmed by a system that is very, very anti-God, anti-individual, anti-family, anti-natural law, anti-divine order, and it's this welfare, superstate, pleasure-driven, sexually orientated existence, very transient, materialism, heavy world that is pumped into people's minds from a very early age. And so when they come across something like this that explains how and why things should be in accord with the divine order, and that is the only way we're going to get out of this, otherwise we're just going to keep going round and round, and it's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. And I'll be talking about that in another video. But and so there are some people who have a little bit of resistance about that. You know, they think, oh, well, my child is lovely, he can do what he likes. No, the parent actually has a responsibility to make the child toe the line, and to keep the child's innocence, and not to dress it up as a prostitute when it's 10. So things like that. So this first part of the book, I think it's the first couple hundred pages or so, that was originally one book on its own, and people were quite resistant to that, or at least some were. But then again, there are others who were very, very much for it, and understood it, and understood how it related to the astrology of God and the principles. You see, the clues of how things should be are around us all the time, because there is this natural order that isn't interfered with all around us all the time, and that reflects, as the book Astrology of Books, as the astrology of God says, this natural order reflects the pure order of things. And you know, as much as we can have in this world, it reflects the nature of God. And so it gives us a good idea here how to live in accord with that, and how to find out what's right and what's wrong. And it's only by living in that way that we can release ourselves from this increasingly tightening circle of darkness and fear. Anyway, so a message to us all. So in this second part of the book, which starts from about the 208, 209 and pages in, then it's Oh, by the way, at the end of yes, no, that's fine. Yeah, and in this one we've got a bit about fate and free will. That's all explained, and how it's good to understand that everything is indeed done, but that doesn't take away the fact that there is free will. Look at the paradox there. You can see that explained, and you can understand. Hopefully, you can understand when you read the second part of this book why it's so important to accept that everything is indeed done, but of course we do have our free will, and you should begin to understand the freedom and the peace and the truth of understanding that everything is done already. Everything is mapped out to the exact detail, but we still have to live our lives. I mean, people say, well, what's the point? But then you could say, well, what's the point of going to watch a film? It's all mapped out. You go and sit there, you still watch the film, don't you? You still get gripped by it. That's just a little example. There are other examples here. And also, the second part of this book, it explains another way of looking at the zodiac. And if you just turn it a little bit, you can see the stages of growth of knowledge reflected quite nicely in the zodiac and the structure of that. And then you can see that the 3 levels above it, which are outside this, what I call the Saturn realm, which is our worldly realm, the one we have to get right before we pass the test, let's say. And there are 3 levels beyond that, and it explains how that is related to higher levels of being and the beings associated with those different levels that actually relate to Neptune, or Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. There is also, at the end of the second part of this book, a message to us all. There's also a story called Derek's Freedom, and it's about this kid who really, and it gives a little, amongst other things, it gives an insight into hell. Okay, so you can have a look at that as well, see what that's like, and also it's written rather racily. This little story called Derek's Freedom. It's like a little parable, if you like, a little fable about this boy, but you can read it when you get it. Now, and then it's the last chapter, which starts around about page 309. And here we talk, I'm explaining about leaders and leadership and true leadership. And there's a story in it called The Dolphin and the Octopus, which is about, I think what it does many things. And I think you should read it as a story. But I think one of the things it shows is that collectively and individually, we really do have to face up to what motivates us and face up to those tentacles, those unconscious tentacles, those things that make us do things that we don't want to do and that are wrong. Face up to all that. Emotional hurts and so on, not through psychology and so on, but through true, proper self-understanding in accord and next to an understanding of God and the structure of all things. And then then there will be the release. Because once you face up to that and accept it, then there is this release. And then, of course, everything, all your levels are known. And as you can see in the book, The Astrology of God, getting known is the answer to it all. Everything has to be known. And then once it is known, then you can ascend. So a lot of the books about ascension, about true leadership, about the clues that are all around us and how to apply them. You know, the sun and the moon, mother and father, because the sun is masculine and the moon is feminine, and the children that come, or the child that comes from that coupling, which starts at Mercury, the child, then goes to the adolescent, Venus, and so on. So that's just one little example of the structure. But in it also I use the basic astrological chart, which is thousands of years old, and goes and or the principles of it are, and where you can understand how and why a government should be, and how and why individuals should have far more power than what they do now, how and why nations should be nation states and should not be controlled by a bigger order, and how and why religion, a true understanding of the scriptures, not just nodding your head and listening to some bloke telling you what to do, a true understanding in your own way. These are the things that will liberate us, and this is what this book is all about. And it's not a big fun jaunt if you're somebody who's hooked on MTV, soap operas, romance films, and welfare, and looking up to the government for all the power in the world to tell you what to do. You're not going to like this book. But if you're somebody who wants to break free and lead people to break free, then A Message to Us All is a good and useful backup key to the astrology of God, and it helps you put that book or the principles of that book into some sort of context. So it's well worth a read, and like I said, it has stories in it as well. It's got a couple of stories in it, so it's not all, this, therefore, this, therefore, this, therefore, this. It's not all factual. It's not all reason. It does appeal on different levels. So, as I say, it's a free download. Read it, but also to support this, we've got to support each other during this, and it's well worth buying. It's a nice book to have in your hand, or in your handbag, or wherever there it is, and you'll get a signed copy. See, look at that, there's all the pages, and loads of nice, and it's nice quality paper as well, and it's signed, and buying it will help me continue to do more research and continue to deliver more of the message I've got to deliver. So enjoy the book, and don't forget to read it alongside the astrology of God as well, and don't forget also, very importantly, to use the principles yourself, to start thinking for yourself, and get those principles in your head and watch the news and just see what's going on, for example, and you'll begin to see through it, especially if you are looking at the news. Begin to look at the news as well that's not coming from the corporate mass media. For example, if you're watching Alex Jones's show and so on, that begins to help unravel it too. What else? Yeah, so you've got the principles, you've got the astrology of God, use that. Oh yeah, and also just get your friends to look at these books. Sit with your friends, read the books together, read a chapter at a time, have a chat with them, and then you'll begin to start these little pods of people who are truly beginning to understand the nature of the divine, and you will be lights, ladies and gentlemen, in this world for everybody else, and not only for everybody else, but to allow God back into this world, or at least he's here already, but allow us to know he's here. So there you go, there's that. Enjoy it, and enjoy the Message to Us All.